years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley. With convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut, visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646. Wednesday mornings start off right from 6 to 8 a.m. with Tina Gorman and Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
You won't admit you love me, and so how am I ever to know? You always tell me, perhaps, perhaps, perhaps. A million times I've asked you, and then I ask you over again. You only answer, perhaps, perhaps, perhaps.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to ArtsBeat Radio. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer this morning. We've got a nice program for you today. We're going to start with a chat with Mike Thornton, who's one of the stars of the Capitol Steps. Perhaps you've seen him at Cranwell playing presidents from Reagan to Trump. Perhaps you saw him when the Capitol Steps came to Northampton. He's not only an actor with the Capitol Steps and an agent and producer in Washington, D.C., but he's also a jazz singer. And this member of the Capitol Steps, who grew up just south of the border in northern Connecticut, has just released his second album of jazz, and it's called Homeward, and that was Perhaps, 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 which is one of the tracks on this great new CD. So I'm really glad to welcome Mike Thornton back to ArtsBeat Radio. This, I think, will be his third time on the radio with us this morning. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Mark. Only you could wake me up this early.
So, this album, when did it get released?
This was released about 6 months ago.
And how long I know that you spent a long time recording it, but the summer before last, you were up here and recorded a set or two at the Egremont Barn. How much of that music actually made it to this album?
Actually, 2 cuts made it to the album. Probably a couple more could have made it, but what I found when I came back to D.C. and did a couple of other sessions here, I gleaned a lot of new information and new exciting ideas from the musicians here. So I ended up taking most of the album from the sessions up down here in D.C. But I got two of the cuts from the Egremont Barn, and there's a few more still sitting there out in the can, as they say, that might get used another time. But it was a real exciting evening.
How long did it take you from conception to the time that the album was edited and ready for release? Is it something that happens quickly, or was there a lot of time put into it?
Well, it wasn't one of those situations where I was sort of sequestering myself in a barn somewhere and, out in the country and then writing with my pals and recording, or it was really, I did it in my spare time. I'm touring with the Capitol Steps and so forth and so on, and living the rest of my life. And so it took quite a while. I did it, as I could. So it probably took a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. There'd be a few months would go by, and then I'd have another recording session. I think there were 3 or 4 maybe sessions, something like that.
What made you choose the songs that you chose? Were they songs that you had performed before? Was it material that you always wanted to try?
lot of it was just material that I hadn't tried before that I thought would be very interesting. I mean, I was literally driving in the car with my younger daughter, and I heard the Quizás, which is perhaps, an old song written in 1947 by Osvaldo Ferraz, who was a Spanish song originally, Quizás, which is perhaps, and redone by a pop rock band called Cake, but it had been done, I think Desi Arnaz did it in 1948, did the first the English version. So that song had been around forever, and my daughter knew it from the relatively new band, Cake. They're not new, but they're sort of new to me, and I love the song. And they kind of do a nice raucous kind of raw version of it. I said, I really, really like that. And my daughter said, you never heard that before? I said, no, I hadn't heard it. So I said, I think I'd really like to try that. It's right down my alley. It's the kind of style that I like, So that's where that song came from. And other songs just were songs that had caught my ear and I've sung before, or I wanted to try because of some rhythmical or harmonic quality they might have. And they all come from different places.
How often do you get to sing jazz, besides recording it in clubs and things like that? Because you're touring so much with Capitol Steps. Do you have time enough to go do a gig here and there?
Now and then. I'm getting back out. In fact, this Sunday I'm doing a debut of the Homeward album here in D.C., and that's going to be a lot of fun. And I'll be doing a few more dates here in the spring in D.C., and then a few in the summer in the U.K. But up until this album was released, I think for the last decade, I've been sort of sitting back and not doing a lot of jazz because, as you said, I really haven't had the time. And it's sort of not so easy to just kind of get together the players and say, hey, let's go do a gig. If you want to be tight, it's not like I have a band sitting around waiting for me to get them out to play. So it's sort of, when I did my first album, which was a long time ago, over 10 years ago, I was playing out all the time. And I sort of played around D.C. quite a bit, Blues Alley and Twins and Bohemian Caverns and places like that when it was around. And then it sort of, did it, said, okay, I've done these places, and, now what? Kind of said, okay, that's enough for now, and sort of went back to doing Capitol Steps and directing and producing and so forth. And now that I've done this album, I said, okay, it's time to get back out there. So it gave me impetus to get out again. So now I'm starting to gig again.
Now, you've got a certain style to your music and your singing, but you sing every night with the Capitol Steps. That's a different kind of music, those show tunes and pop songs and stuff like that. Does doing jazz require different vocal skills and mindset for you versus doing the more musical theater kind of Capitol Steps stuff?
Yeah, completely different. In fact, I recall back some time ago when I was singing, I don't recall which cover it was now, but it was some song that we covered, meaning a song that we used in the Capitol Steps, like, I don't know. I just sit right down and write myself a letter or something like that. But it was on my first album. And maybe we used it as a cover for some silly song that we did with Capitol Steps, some fun parody. And the creator of the Capitol Steps, Elena Newport, came in to hear me sing in Blues Alley and said, hey, that's funny, you're singing that song that we do in the show, the same song. And I didn't even realize it was the same song. I had to stop for a minute and sort of hesitated. And wait, what? Because it was so different, I didn't even relate the two. Because it's a very, very different, the way I was thinking of it, the way I was interpreting it, the way I was singing it, you know, it was a whole different feeling, a whole different character, a whole different interpretation, had a much different, not serious, but certainly a much different artistic, you know, bent to it. And it was very, you know, very interesting to put it in that perspective.
When did you start singing jazz? I know that you went to Hart School at University of Hartford, but that was more of a traditional music type of program and a musical theater thing. When did the jazz creep into your repertoire?
That started when I moved to New York, which was a couple years after I left Hart. I taught there a few years after I graduated, and then I moved to New York City to start some acting training. And while I was there, I fell into the company of some jazz musicians but many of them were fellow Hart classmates who were classic musicians, classical musicians, but also jazz guys. And we started playing out. So it basically happened when I was in New York City.
And now that you're doing both, the musical theater kind of stuff with capital steps and the jazz, has your voice changed over the years? Are you adapting a new styling into the jazz? I think
it's probably safe to say that my voice has deepened a bit over the years and matured a good deal, which is good and bad. Maybe a little less range in a physical sense, and maybe hopefully a good deal more range in other senses. So I think I you know, as they say, as more life creeps in. As you live more life, you know, more different things come through your voice and into your singing, into your acting, whatever. In one way, you let go a little bit of worrying about how you sound, and actors let go of how they feel like they're acting and sort of free up their instruments, so to speak. Same thing with singing. You just start to really sense what you want to say with the words, and it really helps. So I hope I've gained some of that ability, and you know, of course, you know, you do learn as you go on, and gain technique and so forth. So I hope to think that I've been learning as I go.
Now, when you said earlier that you were going to do a few shows in the UK this summer,
Mm-hmm.
Will you take musicians with you, or will you work with musicians there?
The way it works is the gigs I have lined up now are in Great Britain, UK, in London, and basically in England, in Hampstead Jazz Club and Chapel Arts in Bath, and I have a promoter over there who's lining up trio for me, so I will be on my own, and I bring what's called my book, which is actually a series of books. So, you know, piano book, bass book, and drums each have their own version of my book, which is all my songs, and that way I can just hand these books out. These guys are all, guys or women, are all pros, and have a quick run through, and you know, professionals will be able to say, okay, we're going to start like this, end like this, we'll solo here, and that's kind of what jazz is all about. You're able to do, you know, there's that the international language. Luckily, there is no language barrier in this case, but at the same time, even if there were, we would be able to share this musical language of forte and piano and allegro and so forth. We'd know what's happening within the music. So the books will take care of themselves. I'll be able to direct what needs to happen, and hopefully it'll all work out.
Are the clubs that you'll be playing abroad similar to the clubs that you play here?
Well, I don't know yet. That's a very good question. I guess we're going to find out. I haven't been to either of the clubs I have lined up so far, and apparently, from what I see, from my promoter over there says, they're a lot of fun and they're really appreciative audiences. What I've noticed overseas is that whether it's London or it's Paris, the people are interestingly enough, the listening rooms in jazz are you have a few. There are great rooms here, lots of great rooms here in the country, of course, in the U.S., but I find there's really appreciative audiences over there. Folks are really there to listen, and that's a great plus. And I think I'm hoping that's going to be the case, that people are really there to listen to the music. So that's apparently what these clubs are. People go there to listen, and real appreciative and attentive, and that's kind of cool. That's what a musician is looking for.
Now, I know that you recorded those couple of songs at the barn in Egremont a couple of summers ago, but last year when the Capitol Steps came to Cranwell in Lenox, which is an annual thing, after performances of the Capitol Steps, sometimes you'd go and do a set with some of the local musicians in the Berkshires. Have you found any great club venues there that you would like to go back to?
Yeah, I really like the guys over there, Fran Tokars and those guys with the Grupo Mundo play in Pittsfield and play in Lenox, the Rainbow Room in Pittsfield, and a few other clubs that I probably won't think of the names right off the bat. But and whenever they're there, these guys are just fantastic players. Tommy Major and Fran Tokars, Dean Aaron, those guys, they're just wonderful guys. And the minute I started hanging around with them after the show and sitting in with them, it was all kinds of fun. So whenever I'm there, we make a point of playing together. And generally, it's over there at the Rainbow Restaurant in Pittsfield or places in Lenox, and it's pretty short-lived because I can only go after the show. We're usually working 6 nights a week, so I can't, do a lot of sitting in with them. But it's, what we do, we try to make it worthwhile. We always have folks coming out to hear it. It's usually a pretty special time, and lots of folks come back every year to hear this. Turns into kind of a neat event.
Okay, Mike, we're going to take a very quick break here to acknowledge the underwriters of ArtsBeat Radio here on 89.5 FM WSKB. We're talking with Mike Thornton, who has just released a new jazz album called Homeward. He's with the Capitol Steps, the musical political satire group. The Capitol Steps will be coming back to Cranwell this summer in Lenox, and we'll be talking more with Mike after this quick break, so don't go away.
Underwriting support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours.
One of our underwriters here at WSKB's Community Radio is Carson Center for Health and Human Services, a nonprofit organization located at 20 Broad Street in Westfield. They provided behavioral health and rehabilitation services in communities throughout Western Massachusetts since 1963. There are services for children, adolescents, adults, families, and couples. You can find them on the web at carsoncenter.org or at 413-572-4132.
We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
It's Tuesday morning from 6 till 8. Wow, it's Tuesday with Bob Plass.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Welcome back to ArtsBeat Radio, everyone. I'm Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer this morning. And we're chatting online with Mike Thornton, who is one of the members of the Capitol Steps. Just recorded a jazz album called Homeward. For those of you that are watching on cable right now or who will be watching this on YouTube later, I'm holding up the CD here for everyone to see. And Mike, where can people get copies of this?
You can get copies on CD Baby, Apple Records, on my website, Mike Thornton Jazz, the usual spots. Spotify, you can stream it. So it's out there in the online form.
And I just got to say, I've been listening to it in the car quite a bit the last week or so, and I like the choices of some of the songs that you've recorded here. There's a lot of them are standards that, regardless of the genre of music you listen to, you might know. There's show tunes. There's from How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, Route 66, which was the theme song to a TV series. I think that was on TV when we were toddlers, Mike.
Right.
And then Cry Me a River, which is a standard and stuff. And your previous album, which I've got stashed away somewhere, also was kind of a mix of jazz classics and Tin Pan Alley and stuff like that. Is there any particular songs that you would like to record down the road if you're given a chance?
Well, I'm always thinking of new things to record. I think from day to day, I would probably have a new answer for you. It all depends on sort of what style I'm looking at the time. I'm really old school. There's no doubt about it. I've always loved the big band era. I've produced the swing time style show a couple times. Once up in North Adams many, many, many years ago. And then once here in D.C., took the same show and sort of morphed it a bit, did it for a couple of years here in Washington, D.C. So I love that style of music. I like newer style jazz. I like to change up beats a lot. This album, I really swayed away a bit from swing, if you will, and looked at different styles. I didn't do a lot of swing, if you notice. Route 66 was one of the few that really had that sort of kind of swing going to it. I kind of wanted to go for other feels and other tempos and other styles on purpose. So I consciously made an effort to really look at different feelings and different styles in the song. So sometimes I literally want to go for a style and how it makes me feel, how it makes the listener feel. So sometimes I'm sort of thinking in those terms. But it changes. It changes day to day.
When you started out as a singer, and you went off to school, was there a song type or a genre that you were thinking about, or did you just want to sing?
Well, let's see. That's a really good question. At Hart School, it was very classical oriented. So we all learned at the time. We all learned a lot about the basic classical music genre. We learned about music history. We learned about with singing and any sort of music, we learned the classical style. So with singing, it would be lots of diction and lots of, breathing support, articulation, language, pronunciation with, whether Italian, French, or German, or whatever. And a lot of that sticks with you. So it sort of took me many years to, if you will, to not unlearn, but to sort of relax and to loosen up a bit from the classical education. In a lot of ways, it helped me because I have the chops, so to speak, to sing for days and not lose my voice, not get tired, because I have that support. But at the same time, I had to sort of relax to learn how to sing in a contemporary style. So there's a little bit of that was always going on. And when I got out of school, I would always have lots of different styles. I'd be singing in rock bands all around Hartford, singing dance bands and so forth. I did that all through school. So I was always sort of I was always wearing different hats, and different masks as a singer, singing Bach, cantatas in school, and then going out singing, Huey Lewis or whatever the song of the day was. And so it was very different all through school, all through my life. And that's always been like that.
So before you go to make your European debut this summer, what are you doing between now and then? Are you doing a lot of touring with the Capitol Steps? You're doing a lot of clubs in Washington, a combination of both?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I have a show tonight in D.C. and then a show tomorrow in somewhere New York. I think it's Long Island. And then I come back here Sunday and do my debut. So it's a busy weekend. So that's sort of what it looks like. I'm in town for the Capitol Steps. I'll fly out of town to do a few shows for the Capitol Steps, and then come back, maybe do a jazz show or another in-town Capitol Steps show, and so forth. So it's a busy time.
And will you be up at Cranwell at any point during the summer?
Yeah, I'll be opening. I'll be there from June 28th through mid-July, and then I think I will be there at the last or the mid or last parts of August, I believe.
So there is a chance that people will get to, of course, see you at Cranwell, but also maybe get to see you at one of the clubs in the Berkshires after the Capitol Steps performance ends.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's two different mics, that's for sure. You won't recognize the different guy. The guy playing Trump and the guy singing some Al Jarreau. It's quite a different beast up there. So it's a lot of fun.
So it's very unlikely that Trump would be singing jazz after the Capitol Steps.
Yeah, he won't be anywhere near the place.
Terrific. Mike Thornton, it's always great to have you on the air. And I'm hoping we are going to, or at least we're in negotiation right now, to bring the station up to Cranwell again this summer and do a special. And I hope it's when you're around so we can chat some more. And maybe I'll ask you to sing impromptu on the air. Once again, where can people get a copy of Homeward?
Well, CD Baby. Apple Music, and those are two places. So I think if you just Google Mike Thornton Homeward online, it'll pop up. But certainly Apple and CD Baby, it'll pop up.
And for a list of your upcoming performances, you have a website.
MikeThorntonJazz.com.
Terrific. Mike, thanks for getting up early and joining us this morning. I really appreciate it. Look forward
Always a pleasure, Mark. It was fun.
Look forward to seeing you in person soon. So take care. We're going to take another break to acknowledge our underwriters when we come back. There's a big Bach festival at the University of Massachusetts, and Matt Longy will be joining us to chat about that. It happens every other year. It brings musicologists and music fans from all over the place to UMass and Amherst for a weekend of Bach. And got to remember, Bach wrote the Coffee Cantata, so while we take this underwriting break, you may want to refill your coffee. Next week on ArtsBeat Radio, Rory Ann Schrade will preview the Seven-R's 51st season. Seven-R's is the chamber music series in Worthington, Mass. And James Barry, the actor, director, and singer, will be performing next weekend in Pittsfield, and he's going to preview his performance on ArtsBeat Radio, so don't go away. We'll be right back.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com.
Westfield State University is now enrolling for their College for Kids program that runs this summer from July 8th through August 2nd. Classes are available for 4 weeks for students ages 5 through 15 in topics such as digital media, science, magic, cooking, and art. To register online for the courses, visit our website at www.westfield.ma.edu/CFK. Give a Hoot Day 2019. Fellow Westfield State students and alumni, please join us for this year's Give a Hoot Day on April 10th and 11th. The Give a Hoot event plans to focus 1,839 minutes of their efforts on encouraging donor participation in support of securing the best possible future for the university as well as its current students. This year, Give a Hoot Day is putting emphasis on increasing student participation with the event. For Give a Hoot Day, donation jars will be located in both Wilson Cafe and the Dining Commons, one for each class, as a fun way to raise money for the university. When placing a donation, students will have the chance to write down their name and graduation year. The class with the most students who participated will win a cash prize for their class council. Hashtag Give a Hoot Day will be held on April 10th and 11th this year at Westfield State University. We are encouraging all students to wear their Westfield State University gear on these days to help showcase their school pride and sense of community.
We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646. Discussions of local politics, events, happenings, and miscellany potpourri. Ken's Den, Tuesday, 8 to 10. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Welcome back to ArtsBeat Radio. I'm Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer, and we're broadcasting from 89.5 FM WSKB studios on the campus of Westfield State University. Our guest for this half hour is Matt Longy from the University of Massachusetts Department of Music and Dance. And UMass is prepping for another Bach festival next weekend. And Matt, good morning.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Great. Thank you.
This Bach festival has become a real big deal in New England's music scene, and it happens, I believe, every other year. Is that right?
That's correct. The first one was in 2015.
So it takes quite a while to prep for this, huh?
It does. We've been, I would say, really since the final downbeat of the last festival. In some respects, we've been planning this one, but I think the planning really has started in earnest about a year ago, and it's been pretty steady ever since.
Now, it seems to cover several bases. One, for those that are musicologists and music educators and academics, there are symposiums and talks, lectures, seminars, and stuff like that. But there's also a lot of performance involved. And what are some of the highlights of the music that is open to the public?
Well, we've actually had a few already. We kind of start with the Bach in the Subway sort of international annual celebration of Bach's birthday. So we have a little bit of a soft opening every time round for the festival. So we've done some performances in coffee shops and bookstores and so forth in downtown Amherst, which were a lot of fun and involved a lot of musicians of a lot of levels and so forth. So that's already been happening, and we've also had some recitals by students leading up to next week's events. But the big first opening concert is on Friday the 12th next week. Gilles Van Sadel from our piano faculty is performing at 4 o'clock. He'll be doing a couple of works by Bach, Prelude in C major, counterpoints from Art of the Fugue, also some works by Mendelssohn and Shostakovich. Gilles been on quite a run as a soloist lately. He's been performing with the Chicago Symphony and Munich Philharmonic over the last year and a half or so, in addition to regular appearances in New York with the Chamber of Music Society of Lincoln Center. So that 4 o'clock concert on Friday is free, and it's in Byzantium Recital Hall, so people will want to get there early to claim a seat. But the big, and then there's performances stretched throughout the weekend. The really big moment is Saturday night. That's the epic St. Matthew Passion. We're performing this time with our guest conductor, who's Andrew McGill, who's best known as the conductor of the Montreal Symphony Chorus and the Carmel Bach Festival Chorale. And that's at 7 o'clock Saturday night. Big concert, big blowout with 2 orchestras, two choruses. UMass faculty, students, and alumni, the Illuminati Vocal Arts Ensemble taking part, also the Hampshire Young People's Chorus. So, just pulling out all the stops for that one. So that's at 7 o'clock on Saturday night on the 13th. And that is a ticketed event. Tickets can be gotten at our website, umass.edu/music. And then Sunday there'll be, we always have the coffee cantata, the ever popular Bach coffee cantata that we always put on at a local coffee house for free. And so that's going to be at Amherst Coffee on Sunday the 14th at 11 a.m. And then we actually added, this is a new wrinkle for this festival this year, we have an alumni cantata concert that will feature alumni, musicians and vocalists. And they'll be led by Jeffrey Grossman, who's fresh from a triumphant performance of his own of the St. Matthew Passion last week in Chelsea, which had a nice write-up in the New York Times. So those are kind of the main highlights going through the weekend, and there'll be a lot of other little things sprinkled in, but those are the main ones. And in terms of the seminars and the symposiums, they're all listed on your website, right? Right. So umass.edu/music, when you visit our site, you'll see a couple of places on that homepage that actually link to an entirely separate microsite for the Bach Festival and Symposium events. So we've got all of the abstracts for the scholars listed there, as well as a full listing of all the performances and so forth. What made UMass Department of Music choose Bach as the composer they wanted to highlight every other year? Was there a rationale behind that, or is Bach the go-to composer for something like this? Well, he's definitely, in the musical canon, he's definitely one of those, huge figures. I think as the faculty and folks like Bill Haidt and Liz Chang and Amanda Stenroos, who was a graduate student at the time when it was first conceptualized, I think they all share an enduring, love of Bach's music. And I think when they started to look around at other places that do sort of similar festivals, a lot of places will have the academic or the conference side of things, or the festival, but not really combining the two. So when we started to speak to some of our academic faculty and what thoughts they had around what Bach's sort of appeal might be for doing something a little bit bigger, there was just so much to look at. He's one of these huge figures that occupies this major place in the canon, and when we looked at the ways that we could explore what he means to the musical world, culturally as an icon, musically, and how we could sort of look at that through the lens of our department with music theory and music history, as you mentioned, and obviously the performance aspects. It really, the more and more that they looked at it, the more opportunity they saw, that we could really kind of give us a chance to shine, but more than that, kind of put our resources at the disposal of the community in this area to really enjoy everything about Bach. So it really fulfills a variety of missions. There's an educational component to it, and there is a performance
part of it. And so it's also a community thing. It's not really restricted in any way to the university community or the 5 colleges, but anybody in the public can go. I know that in other cities, they have like the Mostly Mozart Festival, or last year it seemed like everybody was doing the Leonard Bernstein festivals. Is Bach one of those composers where there are a lot of festivals that are devoted to his work, or is this somewhat unique?
Well, I think there's definitely as we mentioned about Andrew McGill at the Carmel Bach Festival, for example. The inspiration in some respects for ours is the Baldwin Wallace Bach Festival, which has been going on for many years. So there are definitely, as you say, there's always the sort of anniversary festivals going on for folks like Bernstein and so forth. And there doesn't seem to be any slowdown in people's interest in wanting to hear about Bach and hear more Bach music. So there are definitely a number of other festivals. Both we have right here in the Berkshires, out in Boston. So there's definitely annual sort of revisitations of Bach's work. But we like to think that we're doing it on a scale that is kind of hard to replicate, at least more than every other year. So.
And it seems that from what I've read over the last month, there's a lot of press coverage about this particular festival that really puts UMass's music program on the map outside of the Pioneer Valley.
Right, and that's sort of one of the wonderful side benefits of this, that we really get a chance to shine a bit and remind people the sheer scope of what we do here and how we are, despite being maybe perhaps more known for being a research-based institution, that we are also we have a very robust arts presence here with the theater and obviously with our program and dance and so forth. So it's a great opportunity to sort of remind people that the size of what we do here, and that even though we're big, we also provide a really intimate conservatory style sort of training for students. That's one that's not easily found on a public campus like this. So.
Do the students appreciate this, do you think, or is this something the community appreciates more than the kids?
I think they're really. I mean, the anticipation starts in the fall of the year that we're going to be doing the festival. There's no doubt that we enjoy a lot of support from our community, but I think the students are really, because they come at it from a lot of different angles, as you mentioned, the ones that are more involved with the music education aspect, they'll be out teaching about Herr Bach, in the years to come. The music theorists really get a chance to roll up their sleeves and both at the undergrad and graduate level. And then just in terms of performance, there's so many students involved directly in these performances on the festival weekend, but then Bach is usually woven into a lot of the students' own recitals and so forth. So it really does have a lot of gravity, a lot of pull with the students as well.
Now, I don't know if you know for this year, but there's been 2 prior ones. Where did the audience come from? Was it primarily local? Did people from Boston and New York and other music centers come to UMass for this?
Primarily local, but I would say that there was a good, maybe 10% or so of the audience that we had last time around that came out from the Boston area as far as we could tell from our ticketed results. For the main, last time was the Bach B minor Mass, and we did 2 performances of that, and actually got a nice write-up on that in the New York Times. So hopefully that'll spur a few folks to jump on the train or get in the car from New York and drive up to see us as well. But we definitely did have some New Yorkers up, and then we had folks in part because of the widespread of the scholars that we have involved. We had people coming from all over the world for that, so we definitely had people coming, internationally to hear some of the symposium talks and the panel discussions and so forth. So.
Now, it's hard to believe, but looking at the calendar, we're really just about a month away from the end of the school year at UMass, and you guys have a lot of stuff besides the Bach festival program between now and graduation, and most of your performances are open to the public. What are some of the highlights besides the Bach Festival up and coming?
Yeah, it's actually a really big week coming the next week before we even get to Bach. On Sunday, this coming Sunday, the 7th, Nadine Schenk, who's been a longtime member of our piano faculty, puts on a wonderful free faculty concert every year that she calls Nadine Shank and Friends. And one of her friends that's coming this time around is Jackson Berkey, who's the founding pianist for Mannheim Steamroller. So he's going to be performing at least one or two works solo, performing along with Nadine on others, some of his own compositions. Estella Olevsky will be joining them on the concert as well. So that's this Sunday at 4:30 in Byzantium, and that's a free concert. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then on Monday, the 8th, the following day, is Jazz Ensemble 1, our award-winning Jazz Ensemble 1 program, ensemble, will be performing on doing a number of pieces at 7:30 in Byzantium. That's another free concert. Usually their concerts are ticketed, but that one happens to be free. So that's Monday at 7:30 in Byzantium. And then Tuesday is another really big moment. We've got Felipe Salas from our jazz studies program. Felipe was awarded a Guggenheim Fellowship last year, which is, of course, extremely prestigious, to write a new piece for his jazz orchestra entitled The New Immigrant Experience. And he was inspired to write that based on his own experience as an immigrant, but also that he's seeing in the press and elsewhere, as we all are, with the folks that are sort of stuck in the entire debate over DACA and the so-called dreamers. So he wrote a piece inspired by his experience and their experience that's going to be premiered on Tuesday night in the Old Chapel, which is a wonderful space. Anytime we get a chance to be in there, it's always a lot of fun. And that's at 7:30. It's a ticketed concert, so people can visit our website to get tickets for that. But that's a really major event. We've gotten a lot of actual national interest in that piece and that premiere, and he'll actually be performing it again 2 days later at the National Sawdust Theater in New York. So that's just right in a row, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Some really great moments coming right up before we even get to our friend Bach on the weekend.
So by the time next weekend rolls around, you're going to be coasting on caffeine, right?
I'm pretty much already there. Yeah.
Yeah. So has Amherst Coffee named a particular drink for the festival? Would there be like a Bacchino or something like that?
It really should. See, this is why you're a publicist, but you're also a marketing genius. So yes, I will put that bug in their ear.
Yeah, I would think there should be a special. I mean, I think Bach is probably one of the few classical composers that ever wrote a coffee cantata.
Well, indeed. So he should have his own grind from Dean's Beans, or someone locally should be jumping on that.
Yeah. I jump on that, Matt. I think that would be very good. So after the Bach Festival, there's a whole bunch of other events, and where can people find out about the variety of music and dance programs that are generated by the Department of Music and Dance?
Yep, so our website, umass.edu/music, will give them all they need to know. And you're right, we just talked about just a few things in the course of the next week. April is always completely jammed with end of year events. We also are starting to include if you go to that website and click on events, we're starting to include the student recitals on our website as well, which is not something we've done in the past, but we found that people are really interested, besides just the students' own sort of colleagues here and their parents and grandparents and so forth. A lot of people in the public like to come and hear some of these wonderful junior and senior recitals. So those are listed on the website as well. And they can also check us on Facebook. We have an active Facebook presence. It's at UMass Music Dance, and all of our events are listed there as well.
So when does it quiet down?
It briefly quiet. I mean, we're already starting to look ahead to the fall. We start actually planning out some of the main ensemble concerts in the next couple of weeks, believe it or not, for the next year, because we have to get space reservations in. So, but it's a little quiet, I guess, in June, and then by July we're pretty deeply into the planning for the fall semester. So we get a little bit of a window there for everybody. But the faculty gets a brief breather, and then they're right back at it, whether they're here on campus or working from afar. So I did want to mention a couple of other things late in the semester that I didn't quite get to. And
tell us all.
Okay, so the less people think that the orchestra program, even though a lot of the orchestra students are involved with the Bach Festival, they're having their own big end-of-year concert on April 29th at 7:30 in the concert hall, and that will be conducted by Morihiko Nakahara, of course, and it'll feature the winners of our concerto and aria competition that we do each year. So that's really a wonderful moment every year, and that's not to be missed for orchestra fans. So that's on April 29th. And then the final concert, two concerts by the jazz program, Vocal Jazz, is on Sunday the 28th at 1 o'clock, and Tuesday the 30th at 7:30 is Chapel Jazz. They tend to wrap up our semester each year, and they'll be doing that again on April 30th at 7:30.
There's so much activity going on. If you were a music student at UMass, how many shows would you be, or concerts would you be involved with over the course of a month or two?
Well, we have 30 different ensembles, and each of them usually put on, if we're just talking about the main ensembles, they're probably doing 2 performances. Each ensemble performs 2 major concerts during each semester, so there's 4 there with many rehearsals to get ready for them. Then there's your own recital if you're a junior or senior in preparation for that. But then we have something else we want to try to promote a little bit more to the public. There's been this long tradition of recital hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So students, just purely for practice and for pleasure and for the pleasure of their colleagues, perform. We do a classical recital hour at 11 o'clock on Tuesdays in Byzantium, and this is all free. People are free to come in any time. And then on Thursdays at 11 is our jazz recital hour. So they're just rehearsing and performing, in many respects nonstop. Many of them will be performing on each other's recitals, even if they're not the featured performer. So I would hesitate to hazard a guess as to how many in the course of a semester or a year, much less in the course of a week, how many times they're performing. But they're getting their chops built up for their careers. So
in terms of these recitals, anybody can attend them, right?
They are. Those are free, always free, open to the public. Most often in Byzantium, but because space is just tight all the time and so much going on, oftentimes they'll be in locations off campus in Amherst, for sometimes one of the churches. But we have the locations on the website for those recitals as well. And they're just, there's just so much energy and passion that those students bring to those recitals after, in many cases, years of preparation. So
now people know that where the Fine Arts Center is because of the type of programming. A lot of people from the 413 go to the Fine Arts Center, and they may know where Bowker Auditorium is. But the chapel is sort of a new venue, right?
Yeah, and it's one that's used. It's for those that have not had a chance to. When you drive through the campus, you can't hardly miss the beautiful old chapel, but had fallen on hard times until our chancellor picked up the cause to raise the money to renovate it, and it's just a beautiful space. They just did a great job with it, acoustically fantastic. So we share. We're there just a couple of times a year because there's so many other events, conferences, lectures that go on there. So the simplest way to get there, if those that are coming for Felipe Fallis's concert on Tuesday, is to park in the campus center parking garage, which is sort of on the western edge of campus, and then it's a relatively short walk over to the old chapel. But you're right; it is located, unlike say the Fine Arts Center, which has a few different points of entry, or Bowker. The garage is the easiest way to get over to Old Chapel because it's kind of nestled in the middle of everything. So. And
Byzantium is in the Fine Arts Center.
It is. So it's on the North Pleasant Street side of the Fine Arts Center. Is a long, sprawling building, of course. Right, so it's on the eastern edge of the campus, eastern edge of the building.
And for people that are coming up to a concert at UMass, after 5 o'clock they can park wherever they want, correct?
That is correct. That's right.
But if they're coming up for a matinee or a morning thing, there's really just the main visitor's slot, right?
Right. There's actually a new lot that opened up for visitors as well that you can park with your. I think you have to do it with a credit card or whatnot. So there's another closer option that's just as you enter the the southeast edge of campus. And it's lot 52 actually. So if people go on the website and look up lot 52, half of that lot is now dedicated to visitor parking, and it's just a little bit closer to to the Fine Arts Center if they were coming in during the day. Probably the simplest is still either the parking garage or the visitor center and all the parking they have available there, but there is one slightly closer option.
And I understand from some of the people that have been going up to UMass for events that there are some public areas where people can eat beforehand, and that the UMass Dining Services has gotten all kinds of awards, and they've really amped up the offerings that they have.
It's true, yeah. The Blue Wall, which is in the campus center, has just a myriad of options. Everything you could possibly imagine, from pho to burgers to sushi and things like that. So there's quite a few options just right there. The University Club, of course, which is a venerable but small location that's near to the Fine Arts Center, is nice as well, of course. But we're fortunate, at least for being on the end of campus that's close to town, that with the nicer weather coming, it's only maybe a 10-minute stroll for folks that choose to eat off campus in one of the Amherst fine restaurants and then walk to one of our shows. That's also doable. But we highly recommend that the on-campus dining experience is not what I had when I came to UMass in the 80s, I can tell you that.
And when I worked at WFCR at the time that it was on the UMass campus, I used to just dread having to go into the Whitmore coffee shop or something like that.
Yeah.
But things have really changed quite a bit at UMass.
Yeah, well, with all the building, all of these newer buildings that have popped up, every single one of them has their own small cafes, which I've only visited maybe a half of them. So there's a lot of options.
Do you think that there will be some more recital spaces and performance spaces with all the building that's going on at UMass?
Well, the Old Chapel's addition to that list was certainly welcome, and it's not out of the realm. We've been looking at places like the new design building has a wonderful atrium in it. So we would welcome the opportunity to have more actual performance spaces, and I don't think it's out of the question. But at the moment, we're focused primarily on our tried and true locations and adding maybe places like Old Chapel as best we can.
So the big event of the semester or the spring is the Bach Festival next weekend.
Right.
And will people be able to just walk up to some of these events, or should they buy tickets in advance?
Well, the St. Matthew Passion is general admission ticketing, and that's the biggest ticketed event of all of them. So I would suggest getting them soon. It's a big hall, of course, but we brought in for the two smaller venues we were in last year for our last time round in 2017. It was well over 700 people, so a sellout is not out of the question on that. And the other ticketed concert is actually, I guess that's the main ticketed event. Now, the symposium itself during the day on Saturday, the all-day symposium, is also ticketed, and there's no advance sales for that. You have to actually pay at the door if those that are interested in coming for that. It's $25 for the general public, $5 for students. But there should be no issue with space on that. It's in Byzantin, so people can come to Byzantin early, around 8:30, and register and come in if they'd like. The other thing I didn't mention is the panel discussion on Friday night. So after Gilles von Sottle's performance, there's a panel discussion with many of the same scholars that are presenting on Saturday. That one is free, and Ernie May, our professor emeritus, is leading the panel, and that's always, it's a little bit slightly less formal than the paper presentations that go on Saturday. So for those people that are interested in getting to be kind of dip their toe into the scholarly world, that's a great opportunity at 7:30 on Friday night.
Well, Matt Longy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Mark.
And good luck with this festival. I think we're very lucky to have this kind of programming in Western Massachusetts.
We are, and we're lucky to have you and have the opportunity to talk about it. So thanks again.
We'll get you on the air again during the summer so you can preview what's happening in the fall.
Sounds great.
Thanks for joining us. Next week on ArtsBeat Radio, two of my favorite people. The first is Rory Ann Schrade, who is part of the 7 Rs program. 7 Rs will launch its 51st season this summer in Worthington. Sunday afternoon, chamber music, both classical and there's one jazz program up and coming on that. And then the actor, director, and musician James Barry will be performing next Friday night in Pittsfield, and he's going to preview his performance with us. And then after that, he goes back to acting and directing. He'll be directing the musical Working at Berkshire Theater Group, and he will be in the first play of the 30th anniversary season of the Chester Theater Company. So it'll be a great program with the two of them next week on ArtsBeat Radio. I'm Mark Auerbach, our host today, and our engineer is Peter Coles. And we're going to leave you with a cut from Homeward, Mike Thornton's new album. It's from the musical How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. And you can catch Mike's performances with the Capitol Steps starting June 28th at Cranwell Resort in Lenox, Massachusetts. Or you can go online to the Capitol Steps at capsteps.com and check out where the Capitol Steps are performing nationally and when they're in Washington, D.C. See you next week on another edition of ArtsBeat Radio.
You have the cool, clear eyes of a seeker of wisdom and truth. Yet there's that upturned chin and the grin of impetuous youth. Oh, I believe in you. I believe in you. I hear the sound of good, solid judgment whenever you talk. Yet there's that bold, brave spring of the tiger that quickens your walk. Oh, I believe in you. I believe in you. And when my faith in my fellow man all but falls apart, I've but to feel your hand grasping mine, and I take heart to see the cool, clear eyes of a seeker of wisdom and truth. Yet with that slam, bang, tang, reminiscent of gin and vermouth. Oh, I believe in you. I believe in you. Faith in my fellow man all but falls apart. I've but to feel your hand grasping mine, and I take heart to see the cool, clear eyes of a seeker of wisdom and truth. Yet with that slam, bang, tang, reminiscent of gin and vermouth. Oh, I believe in you. I believe in you.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley, with convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut. Visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646. Friday mornings is something different on 89.5 FM. It's JP's Talk About Town.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University.